If you have the courage to face people's dislikes and a burning desire to change your life, then you've already covered half the journey to your success. In this video, I will discuss the summary of the book, The Courage to be Disliked. This book was written by Japanese authors Ichiro Kishimi and Fumitake Koga. The principles presented in this book challenge our different types of beliefs and also clear up many misconceptions. Basically, this book analyzes the works of Alfred Adler, who was one of the top psychologists of the 20th century. Let's get started. Lesson 1. Your past does not exist. Since childhood, we face many traumas, that is, bad experiences. These bad experiences become deeply ingrained in our subconscious mind. Sigmund Freud, who was a popular psychologist, believed that these very bad experiences negatively affect our actions in the future. For example, if someone feels very anxious about being socially active, it's possible that incidents occurred in their childhood that made them stay alone, which led them to start being alone, and the impact of this is clearly visible in their present life as well, where they are socially inactive. In other words, according to Sigmund Freud, our present is also affected by those experiences that happened to us in the past. But in contrast to Freud, Alfred Adler's psychology is a bit different and takes things a step further. Adler believes that if a person wants, they can protect their present from the impact of past experiences. Adler says that we only imagine our past experiences in our minds. Otherwise, they don't actually exist in the present moment. And since they don't exist, they shouldn't have any impact on our present either. Lesson 2. Control your emotions, control your life. If we want, we can use our different emotions to achieve our goals. But most people are unable to control their emotions. The reason for this is that they treat their emotions passively. For example, suppose you get angry about something. At that time, you don't say, "I got angry," but rather you say, "Anger came over me." Here, anger takes the active mode and you move into the passive mode. Any emotion or action, when it is in the active mode, becomes more powerful. That's why our anger takes control over us. In the same way, we treat different emotions. For example, I fell in love or I burst out laughing. To control your emotions, it is necessary that you don't let them go into active mode, but instead, you actively handle your emotions yourself. Let's understand this with a simple example. A father was scolding his son in anger. Just then, he gets a call from his friend. He sets his anger aside and talks to his friend. And after the conversation, he resumes scolding his son. This means that a person can create their anger and other emotions at will and can also put a brake on the flow of emotions. But to manage your emotions according to your own will, you need to have emotional stability. Emotional stability depends on how calm and mindful you can remain in a situation. Lesson 3. Self-acceptance is the key to happiness. Nowadays, people make different plans, travel, and form new relationships in order to find happiness. But even then, for these people, happiness remains a distant star. Now, let me make it clear here that happiness does not depend at all on how much money, property, or how many kinds of comforts you have. There is no doubt that all these facilities do make our lives easier and more comfortable to a certain extent. But a person truly feels real happiness when they stop trying to be like others and accept themselves as they are. Here, accepting yourself does not mean giving up or stopping your self-improvement. Here, I am talking about self-awareness. For example, suppose you watch a blogger's live stream and feel very inspired. Seeing their lifestyle and fame, you feel attracted and now you want to become just like them. But in reality, you are an introverted person and you value privacy in your life. You don't like people interfering in your personal life. Even though you know all this at the back of your mind, if you keep trying to become a blogger, you'll only end up disappointed. Your values, strengths, and weaknesses are not suited for blogging. Who knows, maybe you have the talent to become an artist, lyricist, or author, but by seeing a blogger and trying to become like them, you've been lying to yourself and struggling in the wrong direction. On the other hand, if you accept yourself as you are, that you can't do blogging because you don't like to show off too much or disclose too much about your life, then you'll save yourself from self-made mental stress and choose a career that's truly best for you, not just the one that's trending in the market. Lesson 4. Overcome inferiority complex. From childhood until now, we've always compared ourselves to others, whether it's physically, mentally, or financially. Such comparisons lead to a sense of inferiority, that is, an inferiority complex within us. We can either use this feeling of inferiority for our own growth, or we can remain entangled in it. For example, let's simply assume that your friend owns a Mercedes. When you see his car, you start to feel inferior. Here, the feeling you have is a feeling of inferiority, that is, seeing yourself as lesser. If you want, you can use this feeling as motivation for yourself, telling yourself that next year you too will buy such a car and will work hard for it. In this way, you make a creative use of your feelings. But the problem arises when we use this feeling in a negative way. For example, you see your friend's car and start thinking that since you don't have such a nice car, you'll have to struggle your way to the office in an auto rickshaw. In this situation, you justified your inability to buy a car by giving yourself an excuse. In simple terms, an inferiority complex is a mindset where a person compares themselves to others, feels lesser, and then uses excuses to justify themselves in their own eyes. They deliberately do not fulfill a certain desire that has caused feelings of inferiority in their mind. Instead, they just keep imagining the possibilities of that desire being fulfilled. As a result, a person gets entangled in an inferiority complex and in a way becomes imprisoned in a jail without boundaries. All of this begins with the comparisons we make with others. That's why you should never compare yourself to anyone. Lesson 5. Life is not a competition. Nowadays, competition can be seen in every field, whether it's education, technology, media, or any other field. Every person and company wants to surpass their competitors and reach the top. But here comes the question, is real life actually a competition? The answer is no, because in life, every person is different and unique from everyone else. No matter how hard you try, you won't be able to find another person exactly like yourself, because no two people are the same physically, mentally, in terms of knowledge or experience. That's why the entire concept of competition is baseless. You can't make two people compete with each other just because they are the same age. In life, every person is searching for their own destiny, and since your destiny is completely different from mine, the question of competition doesn't even arise. Lesson 6. Don't live to fulfill others' expectations. In life, many people will have certain expectations from you. This includes your family, friends, and colleagues, who all want you to always meet their expectations. When you fulfill others' expectations, you also start expecting something from them in return. But in trying to fulfill their expectations, you end up ignoring your own life and start living someone else's life. On the other hand, if there is a person who doesn't care at all about getting others' approval or recognition, that person is truly living their own life. They don't worry about what people will say if they do something. When you live your life on your own terms and conditions, people start to think you are selfish. But for a person who is truly free, it doesn't matter what others think of them or what opinions they form about them. They only value their own life and principles, and they prioritize their own tasks. Lesson 7. Walk toward real freedom. Most people believe that a rich person enjoys real freedom in life, but this is nothing more than a misconception. The truth is, a person who enjoys real freedom is not affected by anyone else's expectations or disapproval, because such a person does not expect others to like or dislike them. A free person is self-dependent. He doesn't beg others for a job. He sets up his own business. He doesn't rely on others to be happy. He keeps himself busy with hobbies and passions that bring him real happiness. He doesn't look for his value in fake followers and likes. He increases his value by working hard on himself and focusing on self-improvement. Real freedom is when you don't have to prove yourself to anyone, when it doesn't matter to you what the world thinks about you. The only thing that matters to you is what you think about yourself. Are you living up to the standards you have set for yourself or not? And every person should strive for this real freedom. So guys, these were the important concepts and life lessons from the summary of the book, The Courage to be Disliked. You will find the link to this book in the video description. If you liked the video, do like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video with more book summaries and life lessons like this.